Okay, good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Orange Board of Finance. Today is Monday, March 15th. To call the meeting to order at 7:03. In accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held remotely with no in-person attendance. Meeting will be broadcast live on OGAT and Frontier Channel 6063 and streamed on YouTube and OGAT with the links that are on our agenda. Okay, so item 2, introductions. To this evening, we have our members present: Pat Romano, Jim Leahy, Kevin Moffitt, Joe Nuzzo, Finance Director John Ciparelli, and our Secretary Deb Satonic. John, did you receive anything for public comment?
No, I did not.
Okay. Item number 4, Mr. Nuzzo, Amity update.
All right, so the only thing I have on the Amity update, and we'll see if Jim has anything to add. The vote last week was a unanimous vote for the 1.8% increase by the Amity Board of Ed. So I guess they were enthusiastic, a little more enthusiastic about the 1.8 versus the initial requests that had come from Superintendent Byers. But I didn't hear much else on it, but being that it's unanimous, I'm sure they were okay with it. And I haven't heard anything since that vote. Anything from you, Jim Leahy, Mr. Leahy?
Well,
I'm
looking for the files that I sent to you all, and in the spirit of easier communication, I'll just share. And this time, Kevin, I will remember to share rather than saying I'm sharing and starting. These are the monthly files that we get. In this case, this is the email I sent to all of you, which have the monthly files from Amity. You don't have to get into any detail, I don't believe. But after 8 months, and as everyone knows, we have at Amity, not only do we have significant budgets, but they start to rise and become more visible as the months of the fiscal year go on. And what you can see in this email I sent to you, there right now, there is a surplus, which is the amount of money that's in the budget that has not been spent on line items in the budget. And that number, as you can see there in the email that I sent you, is $788,000. I also sent a couple of heads up on what was in the documents there, the Word document and the Excel document. The reason it looks like when you first look at the Excel document that there's only 200 and something thousand is of surplus is they had moved over 500,000 into a transfer account. I think we're all familiar with that process that goes on. In addition, the other highlight I believe I gave you was in this Word document was they continue to be substantially under in their medical and dental accounts. I believe I mentioned here 3 under the section with Word that they are now almost $750,000 under what they had budgeted. We had flagged to them when they were going through the budgeted process last year that this was, since they had over $1 million in that one account surplus last year, that maybe increasing the budget for this year was not a good idea and not good use of taxpayer money. So there's your answer. So these things in terms of Amity, we've had a lot of talk about Amity this year, seems to be consistent. So, but right now, what I would argue is that they are 788,000 in surplus currently as we speak. 8 months into a 12-month year, when typically there's a hockey stick phenomena that we've all seen in the level of the surplus as they get to the latter months of the year. That's all I have about Amity. Joe, is that, first of all, Joe, is that a fair representation of what you saw in the documents as well?
Yes, it is. We talked about the non-recurring, the capital non-recurring reserve of 1%, which is just over $500,000 this year.
Yeah.
And They typically do spend that on
Yeah, but that's discretionary.
discretionary
Up to that number,
up
not
to that number, yeah.
do the number or you don't do the number. So,
So that's it for the Amity update, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item number
Thank you, Tim.
5, Mr. Leahy, Vice Chairman's report.
the only thing I'm going to mention, I think I sent out, I just, while Joe had started, I'm pretty sure I sent out the Amity files to you all, and I'm just checking. I know I sent out 2 files. I think this is a collector's item, 1052 after our last meeting last Monday. The title of the email is 3 files from our meeting, and I only attached 2. I appreciate everybody's patience and not coming back and slamming me for that, because obviously I either was supposed to send you another one or misspoke. So that's all I got directly on that, Kevin.
Item number 6, budget discussion. John, I'll turn this over to you for now. You did send us out a bunch of information, and then I'll go over some of the things I'm very concerned about later on.
John,
I think what we should do is put up Jim's Excel report. Jim, you want to put that up?
yes, I'll share it. And I'll also, kudos to John. This is in the material he sent out earlier this afternoon. We're going to walk through any of the materials to make sure everybody, gets it to their satisfaction. So I believe I'm sharing. And what I had, turns out, and maybe it would be helpful as we go forward, in the last meeting, I asked John to send me the account detail information. That's this tab right here in the middle of, so if on the materials that you got in your mailbox, you might want to even open them up at your desk if you want, but on the screen here, I am at the bottom of a file that goes right up, to the top. And next to it is the overall budget file. You might have to open up some of the, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, that type of thing. And what I did prior to when John got it, and I think I can certainly in the future, I've learned that it was just John was in training last week, and so I just did this work, and I did a better job of connecting with him on that, but I thought I had. But anyway, I put in these 2 tabs so that we could see, and I'll put it a little higher. I don't know how well it comes in on your viewing screen or whether you can do it at home. So Joe or Kevin Moffitt or Pat, maybe you can give me a heads up. Can you see this very well?
I was muted, yes.
Okay. So what I did is I took this information that John had over here, and what you can see here came off of one of his systems. And if we just do one, I think you'll get the flavor. This was the amount that had been expended for all of the selectmen, but this is the amount by subcategory. So what I did, what I was thinking is, if we go through it as a team, we would love to have this overall 117,232 and know that it's 65% of the budget for this year. But we would also want to know what are the components of that have been, it's nice to know that it's 65.1%, but how much is being used of the overalls? And my thought was, and what we were talking about in our meeting last week, was we could use this as a guide to, oh, look, we're very much underspending in this particular thing, for example. And then we could go to the detail here. That was the original idea.
Hi, everybody. I'm here now. Just want to.
Okay.
BJ.
AJ, we are looking at the version 3 file, V3 file that was in the material that John Cifarelli sent out this afternoon. And what
What tab are you in?
I am in this tab right here, budget summary, BD, finance 21-22.
Okay.
I am assuming you guys can see that, but it sounds like you cannot, Pat.
No, I'm looking at it on my other screen too.
Okay. All right. Good question, by the way. So I was thinking, I was unaware, or not certain it would be able to be happen by today, that John could go through this and we still may have to do it further. I don't think it's wasted work. So all the way down, there were a couple of hiccups and John and I went over them today. And as I usually do, I highlight with color so that when I go back, it's easier for me to, for people to find it. Something that it didn't sync right, but it synced as we would have guessed. It would sync well. So that's this tab, the 030921 account detail tab. Any one of the high level items here, accounts, total 100 selectmen, which we have a summary on our overall sheet. I'll go back to it again. That this year we have a budget of 180. We have currently spent 117. Here's what we spent it on so far. And then this sheet has far more detail, this 030921 account detail. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to give you a heads up on. Let's see. Now, John, I want to make sure I'm using the right file. So let me go back to this week's file. Oh, okay. I see what's happened. There's a file I'm opening up that's similar to the one that we had. So here's the budget detail file that I was just describing. Now, detail. Now, what John did is he hit a bunch of tabs in this. You see this E and N up here?
Yep.
There's a bunch of things hidden there. I'll hide them, unhide them, and then maybe hide them again, depending upon what makes sense in terms of communication. But that's the same material, and I'll explain why. So this is the exact same material. E to N is hidden, okay? So in other words, you have the expenditures from last year, you have the adopted budget, the change, and then this is the inputted information in yellow, or the yellow header anyway, okay? And that stuff connects to this detail. So I just want to make sure you guys, when we send this out, you can flip between this one, right? And the one right next to it and know what you're looking at. Now, other than that, I was just trying to see, but the reason I was doing it turns out to be perhaps not as critical because of what I'm going to explain what John did over the weekend. So you have that file. So these are the two tabs we're going to use, Pat, okay?
Got it.
Okay, now in the spirit of just sliding it over, and what I can do is, let's see, I better hide some of these files, these columns. So I'm going to do that. Know that I'm going to hide that yellow thing that I just talked about. All right. And John, I think you went over all the way over to at least M. Is that correct to hide on the original one?
I don't remember, Jim, but
okay.
That's okay.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some modification of this file because John and I spent a fair amount of time this afternoon making sure how to get on the same page. I'm going to put this over here because what John did, this minus 330 in the selectmen column, okay, he's going to tell us that he thinks he can save $3,300. So in my mind, all right, and I'm not saying it's right, but I'm going to give a reversion. To me, these are what I would call possible cuts. So I'm going to type that right in there. And because I'm changing it, I'm going to make it a color. And it doesn't matter what color it is in my mind, in my world anyway. And so, so we don't have necessarily need a recommendation, okay? Still, John has on this account detail file, you will notice that off to the right here, he has under deductions, he has taken 3,000 or red minus, 3,000. You can see it up here, it comes in red, and 3,000 out of this account for a total in that account of 3,300. And therefore, that's why you see this 3,300 over here. So that's kind of like a little bit of a primer, and all of them are going to look like that. So essentially what John is saying, look, I've done some legwork over the weekend, all day Saturday, for example, working on this and other things. And he can tell us about why he thinks each of these cuts are a good idea. And, that's what discussion we can have. But at the end of the day, if we agreed with it, all we would have to do would be take what we already had for the budget, which is in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoops, I have to do it this way. Sorry, team. I have to unhide it. Maybe not. So John, do you want to just do one of these, or do you want to, because right now the department request is 180,000, as you can see there. You're of this, what I'll say is a red number. And so if you just say, if we agreed that that would be what we wanted to do.
But all that we decided, it's really about the week. I know you heard me say that constantly. But again,
Hello?
all the numbers will keep us here in our future.
Is that, Joe, is that you trying to get to me, or?
I think it was Chris on the back.
I think it's Chris
He
too,
muted.
yeah.
I think he muted himself.
Hey,
Okay,
Jim,
thank you.
could you scroll down for a minute? Or up? Scroll down.
Where do you want to, PJ?
The employee benefits section.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think we want to do this, use a process, right? Not say I'll go here and go through the whole thing, right?
No, I think I have a point I want to make. This.
Go ahead. I think we're there.
That I have is incorrect because it shows minus $8 million. Does anyone else see that or have that?
The change. It's because this isn't calculating.
That's because the formula in there hasn't gotten what would have been
Column
the
O.
final in O.
Okay.
So we have an $800 or $700,000 increase in employee benefits.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you can see that from the 8-1 to the 8. I can't answer your question right now, PJ, as to why there's a bogus number there. We'll have to investigate that, okay? Most likely, just looking at this, when John hid this and he did something, because it's pretty clear to me where that number comes from, I think.
It's because there's nothing in the Board of Finance recommendation code.
That's right. That's right, Kevin. Exactly. So when he was doing it, he wasn't seeing all these tabs because all John did was say, where can I cut this thing? Okay.
No, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have some.
There's also, if you want to look at it, there's a PDF that says proposed budget cuts. And that also has it by department if you want to.
Right, I have that.
That's this one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also in the one of the PDF files, PJ, that was sent out this afternoon.
Okay.
And John and I already spent an hour or so understanding what all these files were and what we thought was the best way to go about it for tonight. But this one is one of your items.
Yeah.
Okay.
So John, in light of that, all right, and making sure let me make sure I have to move this thing. Okay. Let me close these files. That's been a little bit of troublesome here. Okay. Close that one. Save that. Okay. So John has the PDF, which you can look at. But what he and I were doing was trying to, so for example, he has two cuts in the first selectman account, one for $300 and one for $3,000. All right. And I don't know if he needs approval to do this from us. So I think a short explanation, one way, Kevin, as chairman, one way would be to there's only so many of these, there's not that many. We could just, do we agree with them? Here's rationale, and then just go, and then we know the total $607,000.
I think the best way is to go by John's PDF sheet that has every department and every number, and then the spreadsheet could be updated. But if we're not going to be flipping back and forth, I'm going to have a screaming headache looking at my screen. And he does have it all spelled out by every department. So I think that's if everybody has that in front of them, I think that's the easiest way to go. And it'll be faster.
Okay. Well, he shared it with me in Excel as well, so I'm going to take notes in that. But so here's the same material you guys were just talking about, and if that's going to be faster, that's a good thing. So John, why don't you walk us through?
All right. Is everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what I did, I took our expense report that I send you every month, and I went through that. Audrey and I should say, went through that. I need to give Audrey credit for it also. We went line item by line item, looking at what we spent, looking at what we spent the previous years in those line items, knowing what we're or estimating what we're gonna spend in the rest of the current year, and looking at what they asked for in their budget. And these cuts were developed by that, along with pulling out some of the capital, thinking that we could pay that through the capital fund. So I started right on page 1 with our report, looked at the first selectman's budget, and thought we could take $300 from office supplies and $3,000 from membership. And the first selectman and I did look at these cuts, all these cuts, and we made a couple of adjustments from what Audrey and I had done. And they're out of here. So that was it in the first selectman. Any questions?
I'm good.
No, if he's good and you're good, it's out.
Okay. Well, he's good with most of these because we looked at all.
I meant it's his budget, the first selectman piece.
Yeah. Okay. And then we went to assessor, and I thought we'd take a couple of $1,000 out of appraisal, $1,000 out of data processing, and $1,000 out of training. and he needs that money allocated for the reevaluation on the homes that's going to go out to bid in July or August. So I thought we could move that to capital and fund that through capital.
Because that's every 5 years versus the every 10 we were lucky with years ago.
Yes. And I think we got an extra year on the current one. I think it went to 6 years, and we had to have a special legislative enactment for that.
Jim, we have one violation. Appraisal service is spelled wrong there. It's violation number 1 tonight.
Here's what we're gonna do, Joe. Here's what we're gonna do. Wow,
That's me.
not anymore. You keep going, John, and I'm gonna change this.
Thanks, Jim. Good pickup.
Director of Finance, I thought I could squeeze $1,000 out of the audit service. I thought we could take $300 out of training and $250 out of supplies. Board of Finance, I thought we could take $100 out of the annual report. We seem to be printing less and less of those every year. And I thought we'd take the $100 out of office supplies. So if we have our all-day meeting, you might have to kick in for your Dunkin' Donuts.
I strongly oppose that.
And I missed my little sticky pad this year.
And there you go.
Right.
Well, you guys that drink Starbucks, you're gonna have to settle for a house brand.
Technology. I guess you're okay with the Director of Finance, Board of Finance, unless I hear anything.
Yeah.
No.
That's good.
Technology, I thought we'd take $300 out of training, $200 out of membership, $500 out of furniture and fixtures, and $1,000 out of computer equipment. Legal, I thought we could take $5,000 out of litigation. If you remember, in the current budget, I believe we went up $20,000 in litigation because we had two court cases on affordable housing pending. One's been settled and one will be in court. So I think we could save a little money there. If we need to add it back somewhere during the year, we'll just vote to take it out of fund balance or someplace else in the budget.
Okay.
Plan and zoning, I took $500 from the stenographer, and last year we had put $15,000 in for wetlands. If you remember, we had merged wetlands and plan and zoning, and we weren't sure on what the cost was going to be. We hardly touched that account this year, so I took it all.
What was that gonna be, for an assistant or somebody if they needed it because Tammy took both jobs?
Well, that was an adjustment I put in the budget that brought the budget up in plan and zoning. I did that over the last week also. We just settled with her on both jobs.
Okay.
Last week we negotiated that. So I had to raise her salary in the plan and zoning.
This temporary salary's gone.
Yeah. Pension board, I thought I could take $100 out of there. Deb is retired from that board.
I was going to say, if it's her, we're putting it back.
Yeah, well, she retired and Ian Denny's doing it, but she's been taking comp time, but I'm not sure that's going to continue. Tax collector, I took $300 out of data processing and $500 out of furniture and fixtures. Town clerk, longevity was put in there at the wrong amounts. So I corrected that, took the $150 back, and I took $1,000 out of temporary clerk. He's got two different temporary clerk line items. Town hall banking services, because with the low rates, our fees with the bank have been down. As the rates go up, our fees go up also, but I thought we could take $500 out of there. They have, I don't want to say what they've done this year. I'd rather not on camera. The alarm system, I think I could take $1,000 out of there. All right, then we get to police. I thought we'd take $2,500 out of travel and training, $500 out of building maintenance. I thought we could remove the 104 from the police cars, and I think we may be able to find either money in the current budget to encumber that, or I could find it in special duty or one of the other accounts. But we don't have to move on that until May or June. Telephone contract, I took the whole amount out of there for that. Before we got the new telephone system, they had a contract with the previous telephone guy for repair and maintenance. That's all covered under technology budget now. So he doesn't need
this
that.
isn't even needed anymore.
Right. In repeater site, that $1,000 hasn't been spent for years. It's been moved to other accounts to cover shortages. So I took that.
Okay.
And then he talked about that recorder system when they're interviewing potential arrestees or criminals. And he talked about it being 10 years old and he needed a new one because of the police accountability bill. And that was going to be $25,000. I think we can move that to capital. I think that's really a capital item.
Okay.
Okay, on the second page, let me just say, other than the first selection, I've discussed this with no department head. Just so you know that, out of transparency here. Fire marshal, I took $500 from training. The AMR, the fly car, I took $2,000 out of there. When they were still under CMed, we were paying about $35,000, and we keep waiting to see if the costs go up, but they've been staying low, relatively flat. Even we've had a couple of decreases in the quarters, so I'm comfortable with that. The public works, the fire hydrants, we went up quite a bit in this budget. There was supposed to be a 7% water increase. I don't think it happened. And we're billed by the number of fire hydrants we have. So looking at what we've paid so far this year, I think I'm good with a $10,000 cut there. Memberships, I think I could take $200 there. In consulting service, I think I could take $2,500 there. Public Works roadways, emergency tree removal, I cut it back down to $15,000. We cut it down $15,000. I think that's what they asked for the increase. I brought them back to what they were. Gasoline, our gas prices in the new budget year are going down. I think we could save $13,000 out of there. And
So
streets,
the bid price is lower than what's going on in the world out there with the rest of us?
we bid the gasoline and oil in December.
Good move.
Good move.
Last year it worked out bad. This year it worked out good. So it's like a up and down with that.
Yep.
Where was I? Streets and bridges. They had asked, I think, for a $35,000 increase. I knocked it down to current year. Public Works, snow removal, sand and salt. They asked for a $20,000 increase. I knocked it down. Public Works vehicle maintenance, we've eliminated a mechanic there for the time being. We saved that amount of money there. Repair and maintenance, that was the $10,000. They asked for the parts for the fire trucks. First Selectman took care of that, so that's out. And I believe Bob asked for increase in testing service for $5,500. I took that out. Refuge, repair and maintenance, I took a $15,000 increase out of there. Community center, uniform protective clothing, I think their budget's like $1,500. They've only used $300 the past 3 years, so I took $1,000 out of there. Repair and maintenance, I took $2,000 out. In telephone and communications, I think with the new system, some of our rates have gone down, so I was comfortable taking $2,000 out of there. Case Memorial Library, the printing and binding account, took $1,500 out. Park and rec maintenance, building materials, supplies, I took 500. In overtime, I took 3,000. And then the park and rec, the pool, the natural gas has been running lower. And I think a few years ago, they put in a new burner over there, and it's probably more energy efficient. So I think we could take 10,000 out of there. So in total, all those total, I haven't heard any disapprovals on any of them. I think we could cut 607,175 out of the current town side of the budget. Now I gotta tell you, I did have to increase the budget for plan and zoning for the administrative assistant, and I did have to increase the debt service budget for the purchase of the property. So those are two things that went in there along with these cuts.
When you say in there, what file is that, is the there that we're talking about, John?
It would be in my summary file, my PD, or you got it in Excel, I think. Everybody else has it in a PDF.
Okay. Would it be the budget summary?
Budget summary.
That one?
Yes.
Okay. Now, by the way, my world, because we talked about it at length today. Yeah, I just put it in an area that isn't going to get contaminated. Okay, just to give it a name. So when we receive this document, which we're all familiar with, this now includes the changes we just went through, or is before those changes?
Now it's before those changes.
Okay, so if we were to bounce to the bottom of the page and just say, hey, there's a number down here, like it's 77,109, just make it a little larger. It's hard to read from my own computer. 77,109,550. That's just an in-process budget summary where we are today, but it does not include this
607,000.
707,000, nor does it include other things such as an increase in debt service.
No, it does. It does.
Okay. It does. So this file, when we get it in Excel, I happen to have it because we were talking about that, does include that. Does this now include, it does include the 607?
No, it doesn't.
It does not.
Does not, because you haven't approved these cuts yet.
Okay. Okay.
That file includes the two adjustments I had to make to increase it, and includes the new Amity number. If you look at the Amity number there, it includes the new Amity number.
And that was the 25,236,006,
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I got that from Terry Loomis, so I know that's a good number.
Okay. So what we're looking at this moment in time is this still 4.38% increase that we just saw for the first time from OBOE last week. And John, where do I have on this file? I think it's a little further up. This is the town's increase, 6.77, right?
Are you before debt service or after debt service?
I believe, well, let me just slide over. And just so that we can see it all in one, let me just hide a couple of things that we're not going to be germane for our current discussion. All right, so I'm in town services, total town services would go here. 25,990,314.
Yes.
And again, we haven't taken off the 800,000 yet, right?
600,000.
600.
So this 1.6 million is going to be down to about $1 million.
About $1 million.
Okay.
$1,040,000.
Okay. And our current budget, $1,040,000. All right. Okay.
And apples to apples, if you take the new debt and the increase in benefits, because these other departments have now been lowered, because that number alone is almost 1.3 million. So if
Bless
the
you.
increase is $1 million, that's because of things being reduced overall.
And that,
Okay.
that debt service on the land is at a 2% bond estimate from my bond advisor.
Okay. So Kev, you were saying the debt service at 536 plus what PJ was looking for earlier, the 694 for the employee benefits. That's a whole lot of it.
Correct. That's more than the increase to the town. If we were to take last year's budget to this year's budget.
Yeah, it sounds like, well, it's not dissimilar to what I presented and was in the article that was in the paper, that what's driving a lot of the town budgets is employee benefits. And in this particular year, a little bit more in the debt service.
John, could you explain the big increase in employee benefits? What was driving that?
Yeah, it's mostly the police and town pension. Let me get there.
Yeah, 150 is health insurance, 286 is the police pension, and 88 is the town pension.
These are thousands, right?
Those are going to continue to go up, and you'll hear that at your May meeting. Two things driving it. They've been bringing down the rate of return. It's gone down 0.25%, I think, every year since I've been here. I think it was up at 8%, and I think it's down now to either 6 or 6.25. I forget which it is. And every time, PJ, you know, as you bring that down, your contribution has to go up.
That's why Hamden raised their rate of return last year.
Really?
Now maybe they'll lower it again with the stimulus money bailout, but who knows? But
They're using 36%.
I was also told at one time that if we didn't lower it, we wouldn't get a clean audit report either because of that. So I don't know how Hamden gets away with that.
Kevin,
I don't either, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to fund it. We always have, and it's just couldn't come at a worse time.
Kevin, could you repeat I captured two of the three. You mentioned 150 for police pension.
No, the police is 286,641.
Oh, okay, 641. We'll take 6 digits. Good.
And then all right, so then that one's 88,074.
Okay.
And then the town health insurance is 150 even.
And then we have small increases, other replace. Workman's comp is up 50,000 too, also.
Oh, well,
Yeah, and our 401k match is up 66. Yeah.
There again, that's going to continue to go up because every person that falls off the defined pension plan goes into the defined contribution plan. So you lose a person contributing on the pension plan that retires, and you get an employee that the town has to kick in, you know, that other side of it on the 401.
I almost got the last one there, Kevin. A working men's comp was 50, and there was another one I think someone said.
Yes, the 401k match, which is 66,200.
Okay, so, you know, we can quickly say, okay, let's just add this thing up, right? So it's 640 of that 690 increase are increases from, going back to, I think your original question, PJ, was let's talk a little bit about employee benefits and how they are driving a large part of the town increase. There they are right there. This is what, 90%, Kevin? 92% of the employee benefits increases are in those 5 items.
Now, John, we don't have any room in the health insurance side like the Board of Ed was fortunate enough to?
No, they're, as I didn't do a good job of explaining that last time. They have 100 more employees than we have that have copays. So if our claims are $9 million and we each have to pay $4.5 million, I only have, say, 100 employees that are putting towards that $4.5 million. They have 200. So there's where they get a little break on it.
But as we saw at Amity, I'm thinking the current year contributions, because we put it all, whatever we budget, we put in, is there room where now the health fund balance is higher than it needs to be?
We're at 19%.
Okay. I didn't even tell you ahead of time I was going to ask that.
And I look at that and I go back and look at it again before we end to see if there's any wiggle room there. We've been hitting it pretty hard, especially last year.
Okay.
We're actually a little lower than I would like to be.
John, right now in this file, we have increases of 3.3 this million here, right? That's the amount of increase. 3,354,244.
That's before the 607?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So then we have the cuts that I don't know if we have to do it. We can, what legal is, but we know we have that, those cuts. They're in a different file. Here's there of 607.
I think if you pull that, and you don't have to do it in where you're doing it, but I think that I got that explained in one of those PDF files.
You do.
You do, yeah. I'm just wanting to have it ready. And if you want to go to it right now to explain it, I'm all good with that. I just would like to, as we're kind of looking at this, and if we know the number, 607, 10, what was it, 175?
Yep.
And we can clearly see where we are as we go, as to what this increase is and what that spending increase is, or compared to last year. And I believe last year is now in a hidden column. Whoops. So I can't do it that way. I'll do it another time. I think I'm just slowing you guys up. But to your point, John, I think it's this file. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. Now I have this in Excel as well. So while John starts, I'm going to open up the Excel version so I can take notes right in that document. Projected. Well, this isn't going to be it now. I don't know if you sent me this file, John. This is one of the ones I don't think you sent.
I thought I did. No, that's not it.
All right. Well, here's where I put them. Estimate budget increase projection. I can open it up. It's no big deal.
Hold on, let me I can't get to my Excel to send it to you.
Here it is. This is it, John. This is it.
Oh, there, that was it, yeah.
Yeah. I was looking for a different name. Let me just slide this over so you can see it. Okay. So this is another analysis John did. So why don't we?
So what I did here is I thought I'd give you a roadmap to where we might go. If we take the 3354, which we started with at the end of the budget summary report, and we took the town budget reductions at 607, 175. And I talked to Dr. Scarpetti this afternoon, and he thought he might have $300,000 in capital that he could have us move to capital like we did last year. I didn't get a list from him. I could get that for the next meeting. So that would make the budget increase of 2.47. Then I thought on the revenue side, we could figure $300,000 as an Amity surplus and take $500,000 out of the general fund. And theoretically, the budget increase would be the tax increase would be 1.647069.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Budget increase versus tax increase, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That really should be tax increase.
No, it shouldn't.
Well, it's a budget increase, but it's a lower budget increase because of the fund balance stuff. So it really afford to be a 1.6 million tax increase.
No. That is our spending increase. And until we do the revenue side to see where we land with any grand list slight increase and
okay.
all the other cuts, we don't know. That number might be better or worse. I mean,
I think our revenue side is going to be pretty much what we have in the current budget, except for what we do with these two funds. And there might be small adjustments, but there's nothing big there coming in. Matter of fact, I was looking.
Then what I want to do then to cut to the chase, since I'm going to do it anyway. You sent out the revenue report, and I just looked at it, and to hit on items that I'm extremely concerned about that we're not going to get.
Did you look at my other report?
Which one?
What my projected general fund was going to be?
Well, we got a lot of.
I did, but.
You see my concern on the revenue there?
The $200,000 loss?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I look, and I'll just hit some big items, and maybe things haven't been posted, but we have people's interest of 48.6. I don't know if we're going to get anywhere near that. We have STF interest of 140. We have another people's interest account of 59,000. That I don't know if we're going to come even close to that amount of money. We have $200,000 for public health. I don't think we're getting any of it. We have 98,000 from Park and Rec. We're not going to get anywhere near that. DUI enforcement under the police revenue side of 23.5. We're not getting that. The judicial fine sharing of 15,000. The police haven't been giving tickets statewide, so we're not going to get that. The state telephone of 30. I have no idea if that comes in late or not.
Hey, Kevin.
That I do know is coming in.
The state that is okay.
Yeah, I think it's
I have $892,000 that I'm very concerned of not getting, and obviously we're going to get some interest, but we're not going to get all of this. The library fees, 11,000. We're not getting that. So that's my
Kevin Houlihan.
concern. Yes.
I wish I was. Thank you for going through all that information, and you're educating me of things I could I can and should be. I'm just wondering what file are you looking at? You're clearly reading off something, and I wish I was with you.
Well, it's the Munis report. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
too small and too busy.
No, it's well, it's something. You know.
So I just, and then on to offset that, if we didn't get any of that A92, now clearly we are, because I also have cell tower revenue in there of 123,000 we haven't collected yet. The UNH pilot of 100, I would hope that they're going to pay us, and they should pay us more, but I don't know where that stands. But on the plus side, we have in the current budget 300,000 use of fund balance, and we also received an additional 710,000 from Amity. So those two items offset, that we haven't taken in the 300 yet. But it depends on what numbers out of there that are not going to be in the revenue section of the budget we're working on right now. And that's an awful lot of money.
John, it sounds like and again, I don't want to get anybody's work pattern here. It sounds like what I'm hearing from Kevin is he's going to have some either questions or potential edits to the revenue file that we don't have in front of us right now, but he's using the year-to-date budget report, the Munis file, I guess.
Yes.
You're using this one, Kev?
Yes.
So to say that, if we have this for this year, I don't think we're going to get that amount for next year for this category, for this category, for this category. That's what I sense you're doing.
Yes. Or we're not going to get it in the current year we're in, so we could have a big hole. And I know John's projecting a $200,000 loss.
Okay.
Which means in the current budget year we're in now, we're not going to be able to encumber anything as we've had in the past. For like the police cars.
Okay.
Unless that's built in your $200,000 loss, John.
If you look then below that same sheet where I predicted the $200,000 loss,
yep.
I think I $450,000 savings on the expense side.
Hey, John, could you tell us what file you're referring?
The same one you had up, Jim.
Okay.
It's 475 on your sheet.
So John, we're not looking at a 200. We're looking at a 275 to the good overall.
Right.
Right. And
John, is this the file you're talking about?
No.
What is the file we want to be looking at?
It says fund balance projection, Jim.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'll put it up. Now at least me, I'll be better off by.
Right there. Go down.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, I have the same concerns you do, like the OV&A. That's a formula based on what their labor is. So we will get something.
On the 200?
I don't know. It could be that, or it could be less, depending on. It's a formula Art has that recaptures both the Social Security and the Medicare and the workman's comp, and then a little VIG for the handling of it. But some of your other things like Park and Rec, you're right, a lot of their programs haven't happened.
Yeah, I am certainly not big on them. They're closed. The pool was closed. Well,
and the pool is actually open, but they didn't take like family memberships. They're going in now and they're swimming for $3. I think it is a time, something like that.
But they also were closed, I think,
for the locker rooms
last summer. In the fairgrounds that we used to rent out, I don't know what the dollars are, but a lot of the things that they would do, we didn't do. I mean, they couldn't do.
Right.
And I think they have gym memberships too for the exercise equipment at High Plains, right?
Hmm.
That was probably closed.
Everything was closed for a little while. correct. And some of it was closed for even more because they were renovating the locker rooms over there for a while. So things were shut down in the locker rooms and in the south wing.
John, can you walk me through this document so I understand it?
Mhm.
Which document?
It's
It
the
starts-
PDF that's the fund balance, Pat.
Fund balance? Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
I happen to have the Excel one as well. I just want to understand what we're looking at.
Okay, it starts at 7-1 from our draft statements. I took our fund balance, 14,746,000. On that fund balance on that budget for that year, 72 million would be 20.44%.
Right.
So then I took it on what the current year's budget is. It would drop it down to 19.99%.
So this is 2021 and the one above
2021. The other one's 1920.
1920. Okay, so a couple of versions. Okay.
Okay. Then from the fund balance, I took what we've already said we're going to spend out of the fund balance. And that's 300,000 for this year for revenue. And you've agreed to take 250,000 out to pay for the storm. So that's going to take 550 out of it. So that's,
Can we stop right there?
yeah.
So tell me, has anybody approved this 300,000 or what?
Yeah, you guys did.
We did for last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did. It was part of your budget last year.
Okay.
Or I should say part of your current budget for this year.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep. Fund balance for this year. If I read it well, I think I would have saved that question for myself. Thank you. Okay, so that leads you down to the 14.1.
Right. So that's our theoretically adjusted fund balance.
Okay.
Then I went to this year's budget and I said,
Right.
I don't think we're going to make our revenue account. So I said, we're going to lose 200,000. It may be more, it may be less.
So should this say estimated budget surplus for the year we are in? This is 2021, right?
Right.
Okay. You don't think we're going to be in the gray or whatever, in the good at the end of the year?
The way it looks like right now, no.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, usually I always tell you to look at the tax and don't worry about the other stuff because it's little.
Right.
We've done okay with the tax, but we haven't done good with the little stuff. And it's
Roger
that
that.
tough. And I did look back to a year ago, and a year ago we were about 1% more collected than we are now. And that's about $800,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then I went to our expense budget and I said, I think we'll have about a $475,000 surplus there.
Okay, so this 300,000 is 200,000 is just under on revenue.
Right.
What's this hanging over here, Amity 7?
I just put that in that we collected from Amity. It could be a lot worse, but we collected 710,000 more from Amity than we budgeted.
So if we didn't budget it, we would 100,000.
Now, what I'm saying is if Amity didn't give us above what we budgeted, we would then be in the red even more. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
The
I think you're right, Pat. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So let me see how this got, okay, it must have been done by formula, right?
Yeah, that's just F19 minus 24 minus plus 29.
Okay, it's actually a sum of it all. Okay. And this is just a notation, this Amity
That's
thing.
a notation.
That's a
all that
notation.
is.
And Pat was right. If we didn't have this coming in from Amity, then our cash flow or money into the general fund would be higher by whatever that number is.
Right.
All right.
Our loss would be.
I lost. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. All right, so that lends us to the 14,471. All right, good.
Okay. So then I said, all right, our fund balance at 6/30/21 when we close the books at our current budget should be about 19.62%. Then I said, what's that fund balance if we have a budget this year is 76,560? Now that number is going to change obviously as we go down, but it's 18.9% right now.
This is just an estimate, right? This is just an estimate. Yeah,
That's just, yeah,
yeah, I had to have something in there to do the calculation.
right.
Okay, so maybe we put it out over here.
As
1521 estimate, right?
as that estimate for 22 goes down and we decide to take money out of fund balance, all those numbers are going to change.
Okay.
If we decide, for instance, if we did, I won't say a number, but if we take X out of that 14,471,000, the auditors pick that up at 6/30 and they'll say, I forget the word they use, expended or confirmed, something like it's. Kevin, you got to help me with that. I forget the word they use. Assigned.
So how does that impact things?
Well, that would lower the projected fund balance by whatever that number is, and then it will lower the percent also.
No, I understand the math. The auditors or people looking at us,
It's a lower fund balance because you're taking your fund balance and you're assigning a portion of it to the new budget.
oh, roger that.
So it's theoretically spoken for. It's encumbered or just like you put it on a charge card, maybe. You use that word.
Yeah. So this is where this one dovetails with this one. Right?
Right.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if we've actually gone through all of the ones you had, John. That's the Munis thing. Well, let me do it this way. Fund balance we went through. How about this projected capital? Do we want, I don't know if you sent me that one or not, but I'll definitely check it out. I guess I don't have it in Excel yet.
I think that might have been in the sheet 2 and the one we were just in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
John, if on the fund balance, because I probably want to discuss next week or whenever, getting that percentage down to maybe 17. I don't know whether it's moving things to capital or offsetting this year. But the 250 for the storm expense, as we'll see later, we've only spent one. There's still 100,000 that's not spent, and that storm's long over. So I would imagine there's $100,000 that's going to get added back. Plus, we might get reimbursed on the other 150, but we don't know. So, but I think we have another 100,000 in fund balance right there. But I could be wrong.
I would agree with that.
We don't have the revenue count, right?
The one thing I caution you on what you're seeing for those expenses for the storm, they only reimburse at 75%. And I'm looking at some of those line items. I don't think they're going to reimburse us anything for. But I could be wrong. You never know with FEMA. We're learning that quickly.
Well, we won't ask for $1 trillion. How about that? John, is it useful to go through this document? And you're right, it was one of the tabs. I just renamed the tabs so that they have a name. I've just renamed this one Capital 31521.
Yep, that's fine.
Run through of this one for us, maybe?
All right. Our capital account is $2,057,000 right now, we project. If we take out some of the items that I took out of the budget, the reval, the police, and the Icon radio. Though the police, the 104,000, I may have another spot to pay for that later in the year. So that one maybe could come out. Then I'm talking about 300,000 from the schools and capital. That would leave you at $1.4 million in the capital account. But then if you go down, there's some other capital items that are going to probably have to come out of here. The Board of Selectmen is going to approve a contract probably in April to redo the pipes and the tunnels at High Plains School. And we got a big grant from UI. So it's something that we really need to do. And that's 200,000. And you also have a memo that Donnie Foyer sent to me today asking for money for road paving. He's looking for another 600,000. So if we do that all out of capital, we're going to have about 600,000 in capital after all this.
Well, my opinion, and we don't know the specifics. I was trying to find out what I can, and I know Harvard, the Kennedy School, issued a report yesterday, which is clear as mud too, with this stimulus bill, because we're supposed to get an allocation of around 300 for education, around 1.3 million for the town, and the language, I guess, in the bill, which I have not read, talks about because of the pandemic, towns put off maintenance. They put off a lot of things because they didn't have the money to pay for them. So I don't know when that money comes or what strings are going to be, what language is going to be used to how we can use it. But I think that might be a good place for the road money to come out of.
There's also a question of how much we're going to get. I mean, we've been getting different feedbacks from different areas on what we're going to get. The Register last week ran a thing that said the schools were going to get $3 million and the town was going to get 300,000. Then Jim and I got a thing from CCM that said the town was going to get 1.3 million and the school was going to get 300,000.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah. And now we're understanding there's different pots, and one of them may have been talking about all the pots together, and some of the other ones might have been talking about one portion of the pot. So until we get it, I don't know. And the strings attached to it, the one I saw on Friday that came out from CCM had a lot of strings attached to it. It couldn't be used for pensions, couldn't be used for this, couldn't be used for that, could be used for air handling units and HVAC stuff and for other PPE stuff. But I don't know. Until we actually get some clarification on it and the money comes in, I can't give you any direction on that.
No, it's tough. And the Harvard report had, we didn't do it in Orange, but you have a lot of cities and towns across the country that laid off a lot of people. And part of the money, in their opinion, could be used, to rehire them, obviously, kind of like the Paycheck Protection Program. But it did, mention, repairs, maintenance, things like infrastructure costs that were ignored because of the pandemic. And so I was just, my opinion is we might be able to at least get some of the road paving money there, because there are, we haven't talked about, and it'll be part of our meeting next Wednesday, is what, Mr. Oakenquist's committee put together. If there's anything there that's urgent, that we need to fund.
Hey, Kevin and John and team, can I ask a question? It's kind of an overall question. I believe we moved money last year at some point in time into this town capital account, right? And I just did, and Kevin Houlihan, maybe I'll just direct it to you. Do you remember when we did that?
Jim, I honestly don't, but I know we did.
Yep. Are you thinking that depending upon where the fund balance number is, that would be something we might be doing again in the near future, perhaps?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, going back to the money, one day last week, Dr. Scarpetti got one number that he was going to get, and we got a different number for the Board of Ed. I mean, that's how crazy it is.
But the important thing is, and it's unfortunate, our back's going to be up against the wall, and it might be reason to kick out our meeting. I have no idea. Is if they're going to get 300,000, what can that be used for? Because the big topic is with the school boards is all this technology, and that's a big part of his budget this year, and it's a necessary part. But if they're getting 300 from the feds, then to me that's not a gift on top of what the town approves. It's an offset. So
I don't think you're gonna have that answer though by the time we need to do all this, unfortunately.
John,
hopefully we can get it. Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, you continue. I'm just trying to make sure. Please continue.
No, I'm just hopeful that we do get some clarification on that sooner rather than later, because I think everybody's in the same boat. I mean, you have West Haven that's projected to get $38 million out of this. Hartford, 212 million. New Haven's around 184. If I was a New Haven resident, I don't want my taxes going up if I know we're getting $184 million from the federal government. Ours is a small amount, but it's certainly welcome and helpful in the year we're in. So,
Absolutely.
I just hope we get some clarification in the coming weeks. Now, I would imagine that money is going to be released.
The question I had, and when I read it, and it didn't mention Amity. Would some of the money that Orange gets have to go, and Woodbridge and Bethany, would that have to go to Amity?
No, there were school districts also that got Amity got over 500,000.
Oh, okay.
Kevin, that was something Dr. Scarpetti was worried about, though, in one of the numbers he got, because it wasn't clear about Amity.
Yeah, the first number I saw did mention, or the first list, it didn't mention Amity at all. So maybe the other ones that came along, clarified.
The one that came out Friday.
I did see one. There was a link. I think it was with the Hartford Courant, where I saw the 300,000 for Orange for education, 1.3 million. If you scrolled down on that list, and I can't go back to it because I don't pay for the Hartford Courant, and I got locked out after I read my 2 articles. And there were the regional school districts were separate, and it looked like Amity was getting 500,000.
Yeah,
wow.
over 500,000. Yeah,
which might be why their budget's now 1.8.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know.
Could be, yeah.
So that would free up. That would mean the Orange 300 is for our case.
It's just for Orange, yeah. Okay, good.
John, just in the interest of thoroughness, you sent out a bunch of files. I think we've talked about this one, which says fund balance. So we've talked about that. We've talked about the capital account, and this is an interim thing. We talked about town cuts in detail. This budget was the only one I think that we haven't had, and maybe we don't need to, but I don't want to have, us having things and, oh, I sent that out, but we didn't talk about it. Is there something on this one, this PDF file?
Just roll down a little bit on that. That's just where I came up with the 2,057,000 that I carried over to the Excel file.
Okay, so,
That 95, 197 is other things that you guys have voted out of there.
Yep.
that we have what, John? We have already voted
You've
to,
already voted to pay for those items out of there in the current year.
I see. And then you use that number to do a
The
starting.
20, right, see it
Okay, I see.
balances.
Yeah.
Just to tie it all into is,
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could put all these files in one Excel file and just give them different names, and then you have links between them. I think that would be, well, that'd be one way anyway.
so are you, Kevin, I guess, and the group of you, are you all okay with the cuts that Audrey and I developed? Can I roll them
607?
into the budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Good for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I would support that.
Will we have to take a vote on that, or?
Yeah, I would
No,
make
I
a
don't
motion.
think so, because we just approved,
No?
you know, it's a work in progress, and then when we get to the end, we'll
Okay.
vote.
Okay,
Because
So-
we're all good, it's a workshop, well, it's a regular meeting tonight, but, you know, these are the changes we're gonna recommend.
Yeah, in the words of Mr. Leahy, I didn't want to have a violation here, because that could be a double technical, that one.
yeah, you never know. Let me just see what's happening here. I think it's F-119. Yeah, so what that means, these cuts taken from this level of increase means that we're now down to this, which now itself has a name. That's what I was looking for, that name, 3.72.
And Jim, just for the fun of it,
Yes, sir.
that's 607, make it 907. I want to see what that percentage comes out to be.
Roger that.
Yeah, so it doesn't change it all that much.
Well, let's do something. Let's make it, let's go back to where it was and make it 607, since it's just a number. It's not a link to anything. I think it's instructive in this way.
It went down 4/10.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but how about this? How about we start asking ourselves, what happens to the budget increase as we start increasing this? For example, right now it's 4.55. If this was 700,000, and I'm just gonna, then it did something, right? It's 3.59. So it went down 13 hundredths for every 100,000 we dropped that.
Well, the reason why I asked you to change it 300,000, because I know of another 300,000 from the Board of Ed that could
In the Board of Ed for that would be tied to a roadmap. What I'm thinking is this: if you could make out 500,000, now you're getting down to the 3% number, which is a large increase, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Remember our 1%, 4% graph? Yeah. So, but right now, I'm just saying the only cuts we've identified, cuts per today. This is what I'm talking about, John. I just write.
Yeah, no, it's, I hear you.
And then I save it as a different name, and then I ship it back to you, and then you do with it what you want. Because, like you say, you have to have control of it. And the same thing we have to be sensitive to is, okay, we know that there's, the town's going up by a certain percentage. We know OBOE is going up by a certain percentage. We know there's 1.8 on the Amity side of life, right, Joe? We know there's a lot of balls in the air, money from the government, how much you get and what can you do with it? Town getting some money, what can you do with it? There's going to be all that uncertainty. But in terms of the numbers are sitting right there, all right? At least as of now.
I guess the next, and this question I should ask you, outside of the cuts that I've identified, Are there any other cuts that any of you want to propose that we could talk about? And I could tell you, I don't think it'll work or whatever.
My thought to help out as much as we possibly can is, let me go back to, is trying to bridge us to next year as best we can when things come back more. And we know just from our last meeting that UI next year is going to pay us $282,000 more than they are this year.
All right, I got to tell you something about that, though. We
You're gonna
found
get me
out.
angry?
What?
Are you going to get me angry?
Probably. We found out last week, and I believe the first selectman told the Board of Selectmen, so I'm at liberty to tell you, gas company is moving out and their property is going up for sale.
Well,
They're moving their offices into the UI building, and it looks like they're moving their vehicles and equipment to West Haven, to the former Sears warehouse on Frontage Road.
All right, so how much tax do we get? Because the building's going to still pay. How much tax is the vehicles?
I don't know, but they're like our third or fourth highest taxpayer right now.
Which one is this, John?
I can't imagine the taxes are going to be cheaper in West Haven, though. Why are they doing that?
I don't know.
That was my question, PJ.
I don't know. You know, they're under Spanish ownership. It could be a prelude to them actually even selling it off. Who knows?
You would
This one
think
here?
they still want to save some money, though. I don't.
I don't know. If you go down Frontage Road, you can see the Avant-Garde sign high up on the building, the big sign.
I actually did see it the other day. I drove by there.
And if you go in the parking lot and look at the door, there's a sign that says both Southern Connecticut Gas and United Illuminating Company.
oh,
And I went by there today again, and there were 3 United Illuminating trucks there.
So
They must have
talking about this,
somehow.
right?
That.
yeah.
So they pay $655,000 in taxes a year.
Right. And how much of that is land and,
Yeah,
some-
that
it isn't all going to go away, right?
No, because we have the building and everything. We're going to lose the personal property. Well, some of the personal property is going to move into the UI building. We're going to lose the vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need an analysis of what's going to happen, and that's something that's imminent or already happened.
I don't know if they're going to be out by 10/1, but they're going to be out in the future.
Okay, we have to plan.
Supposedly the property's already up for sale and being bid on or something. I don't know what's going on there.
But then next year, we should also have that new VA-related hospital should be up and running, right?
I think they're already in there. They are, number 7.
Orange VA.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay.
I mean, there's your 3 new things up on Marsh Road. FedEx is number 6, the VA hospital is number 7, and the hotel's number 9.
Now that guy owns both the Hilton and the Marriott now, right?
Now he does, but that's just the Hilton right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's just the Hilton.
And
So
they have a $154,000 tax break this year. So
how come where is Marriott then?
Marriott's probably lower on the list. It's an older building.
Might move up.
Oh,
Actually, I think he's renovating it. I think it's needed a renovation inside.
okay. So John, we do not have the revenue file yet, right?
No, you'll have that your next meeting.
Okay, thank you. because a lot of these things will be easier when we can see the revenue, what this amount of spending would mean, or where we have that much non-tax revenue, then the only other thing we have is tax revenue. And to fill the gap, we have to raise the mill rate. And if we don't want to raise the mill rate up as much as whatever, then we have to cut spending. That's what we got. That's the playing field we're in. Okay.
Kevin, do you want me to get a list from Dr. Scarpetti of his proposed capital and
Yes.
go over it and make sure it qualifies as capital, and then pull it out of his budget if it does, and present his new budget number next week?
Yes. Yeah. And I did talk to Vince also about that. I haven't heard back. So
They were working on it this afternoon, and I did have a voicemail from Mr. Gray, and he had it, and he'd be ready to send it to me. So as a game plan for next week, I'll get you your revenue sheets, so you have the revenue, what we think. I'll update the budget sheets for the 607,000. I'll update it for anything that Dr. Scarpetti and I work on, and I'll give you the mill rate calculation, and we can go from there next week.
and if possible, I think it's Art. If he can update to the best he can, some of those revenue accounts that don't really have anything posted to them, like some of the interest, just because maybe it's not as bad as I think, but I'm afraid it is.
Could you send me a list of those ones you ran off?
I'll send it to everybody right now.
Okay.
It's just a simple spreadsheet I did just so I could talk to it. So I will do that. And yeah, because I just went through that revenue report, and unfortunately gave me heart palpitations. So hopefully we get some news on this federal money coming. And isn't there another like 84,000 the state's sending us, or did that already come, or something like that?
Yeah, we got that 97 that I applied for, that we had like a week to sign up, apply, and get our information, and we did that and got that. But that went into miscellaneous revenue for this year, so
that's already in the revenue report.
That's already in the revenue report someplace.
All right. So we know that some of the big drivers of town expense this year are in debt service, that I think I'm hearing John's voice or Kevin's voice, and also in employee benefits.
Yeah, that's over $1 million with those two.
Right. So we have those two, and we've done this graphic, I think, a couple of years. We have some details on the employee benefits that I take some notes on. But you roughly have almost 700,000 increase there, and you have a 100,000 increase in service.
Jim and John, on debt service, can we put a breakout for Racebrook since it's so recent? Approximately what that will be?
Yeah,
That's what-
I'll send you the new page for your book.
Okay.
It's in there. It's an estimate, Joe, at 2%. My bond advisor told me, he sent me a sheet and told me to put it in 2% right now.
That's good.
We're hoping to go out for bonding in April.
Yeah, so roughly with those two items, we're just over 1.2 million.
I have 1.2 there, and you can see that this as a percentage of the increase of the total that's attributed to the town. Well, I guess we shouldn't put them together. Oh, you were talking, Kevin, the employee benefits and the debt increase, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm trying to see where the increase.
The thing is, I'm not sure
The
I'd
town increase.
put those two together because debt service has something to do with the Board of Ed also. If you want to compare, debt service to what the town side is, I think that's a more useful number. You know what I mean?
Well, I
No,
did.
I get that, but if we just look at our current,
Yeah,
why-
the current increase.
we have 1.2 million in
Of the
things
total budget.
that we have absolutely no control over. Zero. The people voted for any bonds. We can't cut it. And, the pension is what it is. I mean, we've never, ever not funded what the actuaries say,
I
100%.
mean, if you say though we have no control over, we don't have a lot of control over Amity either.
Correct.
Very true.
And thankfully, with all the pressure that was put on them, they moved from their initial 7%, then became 5.72 to 5 something to 4 something. They got that down to 1.8. Because otherwise we'd be really in a world of hurt right now. And they're still going to have a surplus. We all know that. And the other question will be, I don't know if it's on here, John, on one of your sheets. Oh yeah, we're projecting a $300,000 surplus from Amity to use this year on your projected budget increase sheet.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on that, but I think we can do that next week. I was trying to do this. I just wanted to be able to say, okay, if we have this in the overall, I want to see what are the four numbers that add up to that overall. I mean, and then what the percentage, right? What's the percentage increase?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I want to be able to communicate or consider. I think that's what we should be considering. And we know that in the town side, there's these things we just talked about: employee benefits, debt service. And there's things that we talked at length with OBOE last week. Amity, we've had discussions since discussions were in December, and then we saw the budget, their original budget in January, and now they've decided that where they've landed, not exactly consistent with maybe our thoughts on that budget, but anyway. But I think this is the dollar increase, and then because that's what the story will be, and that's the type of chart that I'm going to be looking for or creating as we do every year.
Put those numbers in now. Let's see what those numbers are now.
Okay. Well, let's just go up here and grab the two easy ones, right? Let's see. I believe this one is
938.
The increase. Okay.
Yeah, pick that one.
And the Amity one would be this. I like to focus on the Amity percentage increase, not their, you happen to have more students this year, less students next year.
Okay, now go up to the debt.
The debt one would be the 500 one. This one here, right?
Yeah.
And the town one, I believe, is on 104, line 104 Excel, if I remember right. This one here, Johnny? 116.
Yeah, but I think we got to take the 600 thou out of that.
Okay, we will in a second. So now we're saying it's not in here, but we'll just take out of that. I'll just use this as a number, okay?
Yeah.
Change that number, then that will change.
Okay.
To make sure.
I'll see if those
Sure.
numbers add up to what we're saying the change is. I think it is. I can't see it though. 2747069. Okay. So you got
Yeah.
it there. So now do the percentage.
That's 300 too high. Oh, because the OBOE doesn't have the $300,000 reduction for capital. Okay, I got it.
At this moment in time, that's correct.
Okay. Then that's the right
Well,
number.
the town one, we'd have to divide it by last year's adopted budget. So the town one, Johnny, would be this 24,343 over here.
Well, I was going to say just take the town one over what we're showing as a total increase for this year's budget to see what percentage each one is.
Right, but we have to go to the segment where, for example, John, what I'm doing here is this. I'm not communicating that well with you. I want to take this number and divide it by last year's town budget.
Okay, do that.
Right? And if I do that, I believe it's this 24 number here, correct?
Yes.
Okay, are you good?
Go ahead.
Okay, so just fire that into this, all right? 4.27, agreed?
Okay.
Okay. Now we know what this one is because we haven't done anything with it since, but we'll just make sure Excel does its job, which is this one. It should come out to that 4 point, we haven't touched it since we heard about it, right? Okay. The Amity one, because we have fewer students, is going to be low. This is 25,003 number. Okay, so I'll make a little notation, 1.8% budget increase. This year we had students on a ratio. And the debt, this is an increase compared to what we did for debt back here, and I believe it's this one here, John, the 2,993,859. And we have a significant increase in the debt, right? And if I add these up, it should be 100% exactly. Or because it's not percent, well, that's a violation. Oh, I know why. I just want to, it should come up to this 3.72, right? Oh, you're getting me, man. Okay, so here is that as a percent of what we spent last year, which was a total adopted budget of this 73,755,306. And to keep it consistent, or as we might say, to keep it fair, we better have it looking like that. And that's exactly what we had up top, which is the news thing, right? So that we want to highlight that. Now we can see where we stand. All of the budgets have good and just reasons for why, my 4% increase has a real good justification in it, right? When, someone else might say, hey, we're kind of boxed in unless we could figure out something on the debt. That's a significant $500,000 increase of debt. And again, the town voted 68%, I believe it was, for the purchase of that race thing, and that's basically why that's going up.
Hey, Jim, how about also, it would be interesting for me at least to see, so that 1 million for the town side represents what percent of the $2.7 million increase? I have to let my dog out in a minute, by the way. But
no,
so maybe
that's an excellent question. I like the question. So you want to know what is this as a percentage of that increase?
yes.
Right. So once we, tie down the cell and let us know at least do that by doing that, and then that keeps that as the thing. There you go. Okay. All of these is our percent of total increase.
And another thing to remember, I don't think it starts, does it start next year? When do we start getting the revenue from Racebrook, which offsets the debt?
The next budget, not the one we're in, the following.
The next budget. Okay.
Yeah. So this is somewhat of a one-time hit. Or it will still be there, PJ, in terms of the expense, but we're picking up like 60%, I forget the number, on the revenue side. So we'll still have the expense, but we will have that, whatever, 200, 300,000, whatever it was, on the revenue side, but the expense will still be sitting there, right? Yeah.
We're not going to have revenue until September of 22. So that's not going to be in this budget we're working on.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
No, I know. It's just something to remember for next year. It's going to, we'll have more revenue coming.
Just wanted to make clear that, we're going to have 1 year where it doesn't offset.
The other significant thing is on the 1,040,000, the portion of it that's employee benefits that we have no control over. If I look at the OBOE and the Amity and the debt, those are all things that that it is what it is. And the employee benefits also falls into that it is what it is category. So we're really looking at a relatively small amount of increase in what I would call discretionary. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
And Pat, you're right. And even what you would call discretionary, a lot of it is employee increases.
Right. So we
don't really have any control over that either, other than at the negotiation table.
Right. No, just in terms of from an optics perspective, it looks like the town is spending a lot more money than in percentage wise than OBOE and Amity. But the spending is on non-discretionary spending. It's not something that we really have any control over.
Well, let me present not necessarily an alternative view.
Yeah.
But definitely one that is usually used in industry. Regardless of how come it's going up, it forces you to look at it. And I've never seen anyone do a forcible look at numbers and not find something. I agree with the tone of what we say, although the Amity one, we've been moving on out on that and talking about it for quite some time. The OBOE one is like 1 week old. The debt one was primarily the increase as a result of the decision of the townspeople's vote.
No, but I'm just wondering if we could do a category of employee benefits and town/other that added up to the 1,040,000.
Well, what we've done in the past, and we were doing it earlier, I think it was on this sheet, but maybe it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, there it is over there. Was to be able to explain it, and Kevin, you've seen us do this in the town budget hearing in years past. But for example, 1 year, 95%, I think it was, of the increase in the budget was totally Amity on all 4 of these categories. Okay, that was 1 year. Remember that one, Kevin? Mm-hmm. Then there was Dr. Brady was the superintendent at the time. So I remember it's pretty much a number of years ago, 2 superintendents ago. Another year we were showing that it's employee benefit. Well, even in the article that I quoted some of you on that I wrote for the Orangetown News, there was a trend, and it shows the trends in the town pension. is grabbing a lot of, and the insurance increases grabbing a lot. But just because those are there doesn't mean that you can't examine them and look for opportunities. I know PJ, for example, you did yeoman's work with your friend who's in the health insurance business, looking for opportunities for the town. Didn't pan out that particular year, but it was as a result of us having these large increases. Is there something we can do about it? So directionally, I agree with you, Pat, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't stop us from saying, hey, let's really hone in here. It may not result in anything, but I don't think we just, say, oh, it's a tough one.
No, my thinking is I don't want to give the impression that the town is spending frivolously, and it looks like we're spending $1 million just under the category that says town. And right. I would like to see town, other, and employee benefits and see what that looks like in terms of percentages.
Town, other, and employee.
Well, in other words, a category of employee benefits, I'm assuming that's 649.15 increase. And then the difference between that and the 1,040,000. Am I driving everybody crazy yet?
No, I don't think so. I think you're a good question.
No, and if it wasn't for John and Audrey's work cutting 607,
right,
the town, because we basically lowered the town increase is now less than employee benefits plus the new bond.
Right.
It's actually lower than those two components because we're not gutting, we're removing expenses from other areas.
We're paring down.
Which does happen to include a couple of employees.
Yeah.
And not to be a BOE sympathizer, and we go through that next week too. Their increase last year didn't even cover their employee benefit expenses. Yeah. Remember, we all had health insurance and pension went through the roof on us last year. We did move some stuff to capital to help, but their actual increase, right. and they've been the stepchild because of Amity's increases over the years.
Yeah.
And they got last year that budget increase from last year. If you go back to their budget, was actually I think it was less than or it was equal to just their employee benefit, health insurance, and other increases when they cut and move some other things around. And it's like us that happened over the years, and Jim and I doing these budget presentations, always worried because if the town side was up one year, well, higher than the other departments, it was because in the bad years, and you go all the way back to 2008 when we furloughed people and all that, the town took the brunt of it. Certain departments have taken the brunt of things more than others over the years. Public Works certainly had some very tough years back 08, 9, 10 probably, and maybe last year. But I was just trying to balance it out and catch people up on some of the needed things, especially on the education side with the infrastructure,
right?
With all this remote learning and, the technology costs are just huge, especially when it's limited vendors out there and they can basically ask what they want.
Yeah.
We should all be in that business right now.
Yeah.
But this is nowhere near where I think any of us wanted to be looking at an increase of $1.6 million as a tax increase to our residents. So we definitely have some work to do next week, next week, and whatever, and maybe hopefully, well, it's the government, so we're not going to know, but we have some information on this, this funding we get. It would be great to take that 300 and for the Board of Ed and say, okay, we're going to get it. We know we can use it for their technology that's in this budget, and we take it out.
John, can I ask you a quick question? On the Racebrook bond, when do we expect to have that secured?
We hope to go out to bond in April. they're still negotiating the lease, and we can't go out to bond until we finish our audit and you guys approve the audit because it needs to go into the offering.
How many months of debt service do you think we'll have this year?
We're going to have 2 payments. You
Okay.
usually, the way you usually schedule it, from the time you take the bond, you usually make your first payment 6 months and 6 months after that. So we're looking at the fall and then in the spring of 2022.
So,
John,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
do you know, because maybe we could delay it and only have 1 payment, but do we know the bank's deadline for when that loan needs to be paid off on behalf of the club?
They're pushing. Their grace period with the club is just, it's either ended or just about ended, I think in April.
Okay, so we
They had an 18-month, I believe, agreement on that.
Okay, so we don't have wiggle room there to push it out, so we only end up with 1 payment. And
Unlike what was said in public that it was rushed, the detractors against this said it was rushed and pushed out there. The Board of Selectmen had been in executive session for over a year talking about this, so it's been going on for over a year.
well, then I'd like to commend the Board of Selectmen because I did not know that.
No one knew that.
And I wish,
It's funny though.
we're all friends with different members of that board, and that's a great executive session.
They did their job. I mean, very few of us knew about it, but you could have drove by there and over a year ago, and you could have seen the survey flags where the surveys have been done, and you would have known something was up because they were all over the place.
I probably thought it was gas lines marking something. I don't even.
Yeah, Shepherd Lane had that side where they were considering selling off just what the old 9 used to be. That had all the flags and whatnot on it, and there were workers in there surveying for quite a while. Because at one time the thought was to sell all that land around the perimeter, and for development.
Can I take 2 minutes on the race for a quick analysis, just for all of us and for the viewers, if you don't mind for 1 minute?
Well, it depends if it's pertinent because the vote's been done.
If it's
so the vote's done, if we're going to discuss, whether or not, I don't know where you're going.
No. What I'm going to do is the vote was almost 70%. No, that's fine. I don't think anybody really understood the analysis of it all. Very, very quickly, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, but just quickly, $8.6 million bond, 2%, 20 years, is about $522,000 a year in annual debt service, P&I. We're losing $125 of tax revenue. That's $647, and we're gaining about $250 a year in the lease. So our net loss is about $397,000.
There's no net loss when we now control 287 acres.
No, I understand that, Kev. Of course, 40 years. For 20 years, again, with the 250 rental, the leases, we're going to lose about $400,000 a year. But we're going to gain all that space over time. So, of course, I'm for it, yes. But I want to make a point that with this debt service and the increase in our budget, it's only going to cost us a little bit this year. But overall, it's $400,000 loss annually for the next, I'd just say 15, 20 years, depending on the increases, which we don't really know about. That's all. I just wanted to make that point to us because I don't think it was very clear to all of us on what the loss is going to be because we never really discussed it as a board. We got we didn't
have the information, but to me, 29,000 an acre, and it's not 29,000 an acre, it's like 23, because we're getting 2 houses, maintenance facilities, the clubhouse, whatever. that they could be sold, leased, rented to somebody else should this fall apart. But when, and Mr. Goldblatt wrote his analysis, you know, we've paid upwards of 100,000 an acre for certain properties in town. This is, we're paying, all right, say it is 29. I think it's less because there's buildings and structures. If we got nothing back, it makes sense to a lot of people.
I think we had to do this. It was a unique opportunity to us for sure, but it's not inexpensive. And I get why we did it, and of course we're for it. We voted for it, but I just wanted to make that point that yes, it's going to be expensive. Now we have to pay for that. So you know,
just like we paid for Tucker's Ridge, just like we paid for Ewan Preserve, just like we paid for the Wright property, and all those were more expensive than this one.
And we're not going to get anything back for those.
Correct.
Right.
yes, correct.
Right. Right.
It's an investment in our future.
I just saved, John, this file.
I
You
think so.
to me, and I just saved it as what I always do, the next version, V2. And I'm just going to send it back to this team so that you have a visual, if you so desire, of this look that you're seeing right here. All right. And again, it's an interim budget look. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of thoughts. I would like to mention one thing in a different file. When we went through these budget cuts, and I'm not exactly sure why these two components don't add up to 100%. They should. I'll check that out in a minute. But this 607, more than half of it's coming out of just capital items. So this, in other years, we've done an analysis and maybe we've wrung out all that we can. But I would not, as a member of this board, think that we have exhausted all the possibilities that might be inherent in the town side. Even when we all know, as I think I hear Pat's voice in the background, saying that 1,040,000, maybe Pat's and Kevin's, are heavily influenced by the debt service, and the debt service and benefits is 1.2, which is even, by itself higher than the 1,040,000 number for the town.
Right.
And that would be part of a story, article, presentation, whatever we do come spring or the next issue of Orange Town News, or when we finally land on, something more solid than what we have right now. This is an interim. But there still are, I think, opportunities on a couple of our expense segments of the four there.
Yeah, no, we could, Milford came in today with a flat budget of 0.01 actual decrease. They picked up 92 million in grand list growth. A lot of new big houses being built by the ocean too, which helps. Mm-hmm. But they pulled $550,000 out of their police department. Now, in all respect to Mayor Blake and his Board of Finance, I don't think I'd be doing that. They hit the people just up the street from me last night. They were all running through the neighborhoods, checking on all the cars, and the person about 400 yards from my house had his car broken into. We see it every day, what's going on out there, and every town makes their own decisions, but I'm not sure they're the right decisions, and that's why we don't follow what other people do.
That exhausts us on the budget discussion, team. John, Kevin,
I think,
PJ.
Yeah.
I think exhaust is a good word.
I think hopefully we'll get some new news between now and next Wednesday, whether it's the stimulus money or something else, and we'll all be in touch. And that we're going to meet at 6:00.
Yep.
I've definitely gained weight since the last time I've seen you all.
Should we wear name tags?
Is that 24th, Kevin? I've got the calendar up on the screen right now.
Yep.
24th?
Yes, the
24th.
24th, 6 p.m. Okay.
15 rhymes with quarantine, 20 doesn't rhyme with anything.
Okay. So now, Kevin, my hunch is we probably aren't going to be, even if we have a long meeting, going to be 100% nailed down on the budget at the end of the 24th.
I would agree with that.
I think we're going to need a cleanup, and we have to respect that John needs his time. All right. And he's got a lot of demands on his times. I learn more and more about that each time we talk. So we might want to be looking right now at if we needed to spend another hour or two, what date after the 24th and before the 31st, or possibly it would be the 31st, would we consider for a 1 or 2 hour follow-up if needed?
Well, since we could possibly be going back to department heads or another board, we'd want to give them time to meet. So Jim, my opinion, and everybody could agree or disagree, would be if it's okay with John to finalize on the 31st.
Okay.
So we would have a week. So if a certain board had to meet on a Monday or have time to call a meeting, we could do that.
So we have our green button here, or a circle here for budget. Whoops.
John, when do you need to go to print?
I have to hand it to him on the morning of April 6th.
Okay.
So that gives me 2 days because we're off, I think, April 1st. Isn't that Good Friday?
April 1st, a Thursday, right?
Yeah, first is the Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, Good Friday's the second. Yep.
Second, yeah. I would rather not work that day.
So if we do it the 31st, you send it on the 1st or the 5th.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm working Good Friday, but I get my second shot on the 1st. So some people it affects, other people it doesn't. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I hate to tell you, Gino Oriema tested positive today.
Yeah.
Nice.
He had both shots.
Right, but he hadn't gotten past the 10 days.
No, he was 1 week.
Correct.
Yeah, or 14 days.
Yeah, he got a second shot on the 10th and he tested positive yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't want to make this about me, but we have hockey pretty much every day that week. We have tryouts too, so it's a really, really tough week for me. But you guys could fill me in on what you discussed.
We could FaceTime you from the hockey rink.
Yes, you'll have my full attention.
I want to see you skate. The whole board wants to see you skating.
No one
Yeah.
wants to see me skating.
Oh, there's a lot of
So
video.
PJ, then so the 30th isn't better for you than the 31st. They're all bad.
I actually think the 30th might be better. I think our regular season ends on the 28th. I'll find out tomorrow if that's okay. I'll let you get. So why don't we say the 30th? Because the 31st we have tryouts. I know that for a fact.
Does the 30th work for everyone else?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's John.
Right now it does. Yep.
And John, that gives you an extra day.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
Are we going to meet in person or Zoom?
Well, I think we should meet in person.
I think we could. If we're going to agree tonight on the 30th, if that's good for everybody, I'll email the Board of Ed tomorrow morning and ask if we can have the room again.
Terrific.
Next step.
Would that be at 6 p.m. again also?
I'm good with that.
I
Works
think
for
so.
me.
If
I
that's
think they should be. Yeah.
yeah, because I think we have to be out of that building by 10, right? Otherwise, there's some additional costs. Or, I'm not sure.
We better be out by 10.
Okay, Coach. So I'll save this. What should I do? Yeah, I'll just save this.
Actually, April 1st in the afternoon, I got to be off. Something very important that day happening in New York.
Oh, Yankee home. I have a feeling I know, John.
Are you going to the game?
No.
I think they're letting 12,000 people in. I heard, or
I don't think I'll be going to a game this year.
oh, you go to Texas, they're gonna have full capacity on opening day.
Right.
The only time I want to go to Texas is if I have to go through the airport. I've done that. So
We're good on our meetings coming up, the 24th at 6 and 30th at 6. Kevin's going to follow up for the 30th. Do we need any TLC over there, John, to get the computer system set up so we can utilize their facilities?
I don't know what they have. You probably should make a call to Dr. Scarpetti.
I will do that.
Tell him what you're looking for and see what he has available.
Oh, I know he's got it there. It's just that it's usually a setup type of thing. Yeah.
I don't know any passwords or anything if you need Wi-Fi or anything over there.
Excellent point.
Gotta shut my video off.
Hey, Kevin,
Yes,
not to
sir.
pawn it off, but since you said you would be contacting OBOE, either Vince or Billy or whomever, could you just mention that we might need some assistance at the front end at 6 o'clock on the 24th? Or would you like me to handle that as a separate item? Because you'll be contacting him about seeing if we can use it on the 30th.
All right, so we want to do that, and we need to know if what there's a projector.
I tell you what, why don't I just handle it for the 24th, and between now and then, Kevin, I'll handle it. I've rethought of what I just asked you, and I think I'd just as soon do it myself, because
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I can find the people to answer my questions.
All right, so I just emailed them on a request for the 30th. That's the magic of Zoom. I'm sitting here at my desk, so that's done, but I left off.
No, I'll take care of it offline. What I'll do, I'll go over and see, like Chris of OGAT, he knows.
Our budget meeting, hearing, whatever, on the 21st is going to be in the gymnasium because we're not going to be able to fit enough people in the cafeteria with social distancing. Just so everybody knows that.
Okay.
That's fine, and I think we should send out a memo. I mean, it's a meeting that people are allowed to come to, but in the past we've had department heads and others just come as a courtesy. But if there's nothing that they want to bring up to our attention or complain about, I think the less people, the better. So we, respectfully ask them not to come.
Yeah.
I think what we'll need is the OGAT people, Chris, to give it a name, right? And, the facilitization of that gymnasium is different than the facilitate of the cafeteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in doing it in a way that is useful for the people in the room and also useful for the people in the gymnasium. Those are two different, the people in J's and also for OGAT are two different things.
We've held the meeting in both of those locations in the past.
True, we've done it. I don't know we'll just need to plan for it, that's all, and not plan for it, the day off.
I think like a week before or a couple of days before, get together with Paul and his crew and figure out the setup over there.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
we
We've
started
done it before. Yeah.
with the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And John, this is all contingent on Lamont not extending his executive orders, because if he does, then we're back to Zoom, right?
Right. All indications are, though, now he's not going to extend them. He
I agree.
loosened up the vaccinations today, and
Yeah.
I think Friday the restaurants could go to 100% capacity with the social distancing, which means they can't get to capacity, most of them, but
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so we're good on the calendar?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Is it useful, or you guys need this picture for your records? It's in PowerPoint. I could send it to you as a single page, or if you've just, hand jotting them down. If you just let me know right now, if you need it, I'll just send it to you.
I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
actually, if I think of it tomorrow, a memo came out from the first selectman's office from Ian today with all the dates on it for not only our budget hearing, but the town meeting, the referendum, and Amity's meetings. I'll send it to all yous. So you have it.
Yeah. We have the Amity referendum on the 5th. That's on this sheet, you can see. And the annual budget meeting, which is on May 4th. And then there's a district hearing, which is over early in April here, this light blue one.
April 5th.
Correct, yeah. So getting town stuff in there would be great. And these referendums, both for Amity and for the town budget, that will be, you can do write-in voting, John, by contacting town hall is.
I would assume town clerk, yes.
Yeah.
There's, I don't think you can do it yet. There's a certain amount of time.
Right. Yep. Okay.
Right, and there's no formal proposal yet.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, anything else on our budget discussion?
No.
Until next week. All right, so item number 7, set next budget meeting date. We've done that.
All right.
So we'll go to item number 8, discussion and approval of minutes from March 8th, 2021, special meeting.
On you batting lead off again?
Yeah, I'm looking for him. Give me a second here.
Okay.
Right in front of me. Okay, starting with the Deb, you on? Deb, anybody see her picture?
She's usually here.
Yeah, she's still on.
She's on.
Yeah, she's muted.
She's waving.
Hopefully she hears us.
Yeah, she's cleared now.
Starting with the guests, I think we probably should say Dr. Scarpetti's, our Superintendent Orange Board of Education, and members of his staff and BOE members. Because we did have a couple of people from his staff get on, Mike Gray and I think Mrs. Ito, and explain some things.
Yes, and there was other people in the room behind him.
Right, ready to do it. I know Christine was there.
Hey, could I suggest something there on just that one item, not to interrupt your flow, John?
No, go ahead.
Dr. Vince Scarpetti, Superintendent, Orange Board of Education, and his immediate staff, and then maybe a semicolon or something. And then Mr. Bill Kraut, Chairman of the Orange BOE, and members of the Orange BOE. I think we should, put the leader in both cases as specific, and then, and staff and other members of BOE in the same guests line, not just the.
Yep, fine with me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then if we go down to page 2,
All right.
the very last bullet point where it talks about health insurance, I think we got to clean up that line a little bit. I think it should read, Mr. Cifarelli pointed out that the OBOE has about 100 more employees paying co-pays into the plan. So they have more employees paying toward the claims, the more, you know what I'm trying to say, what I said tonight.
That's right. Hey, John, I don't have a way to finish your sentence, but I think if you Mr. Cifarelli pointed out the OBA has about 100 more employees paying co-pays into the plan, period. And then have another section as a result, perhaps,
Or therefore, yeah.
Don't try to jam it into one sentence. It's sometimes when you cutting them up, it helps you out.
You're right. I like that. Let's do it like that then.
Okay, so let's read it then. Mr. Cifarelli pointed out that the OBOE has about 100 more employees paying co-pays into the plan, period.
Right.
Now, what's the other point you wanted to make?
Therefore, they have a better rate than the town.
Not that they have a better rate. They're paying more co-pays into the plan than the town is. You know what I mean? They
Right,
have
so
200.
they're being reduced.
Right. The employees are paying more towards the claims than the town employees are because there's more people. You follow me?
Yeah.
So therefore, they're paying more.
Oh, John, I thought you educated me last time because I might have been one of the ones. I think I did. I said, "How come we're having explosion in our insurance cover rates and OBOE has like a decrease, small." But I thought you said that the claims of this segment of 200 people were not as large as the claims of the 100 people on the town side. I thought that was what you.
Correct. That's correct. The claims of the 200 people are about 50% of the total claims of what the 100 people on the town side are.
So they're
but there's two different things.
Okay.
But there's two different things. That's the claims, but we're talking about the revenue that needs to pay for those claims. If there's $9 million in claims, we have 100 employees paying towards that $9 million. They have 200 employees doing a copay towards that $9 million, where the town and copays contributes, and I don't know the exact numbers, I'd have to look them up, $500,000. The OB&E employees pay $1 million. So in effect, that lowers their budget because they have more people paying copays towards the claims.
Okay, so how about two pieces? I'm just going off the top here, right?
Yeah.
Give me what I got. Mr. Cifarelli pointed out that the OBOE has about 100 more employees paying copays in the plan. All right. on the revenue side,
So
period.
their cost is lower than the town because
Well,
they're
no,
still
I
paying
think-
it in.
I think what you have to do, Kevin, what I was going to do is say, they have about 100 more people paying co-pays into the plan, which generates additional revenue for them, period, or something like that. Then say, on the cost side, the OBOE has a similar total cost as the than the town has, comma, even though the town has only 100 employees. Whatever those numbers should be. In other words, it seems like there's 2 points being mangled into one sentence here. One impacts your revenue, and one then the second sentence should say about your costs.
You could say that, Jim. I could agree with what you just said.
Can you make it any simpler? Because that's,
Makes your head spin like everything else here.
Want to just leave it at this. Mr. Cifarelli pointed out the OBOE has about 100 more employees paying co-pays into the plan, period.
right.
This enables the OB&A budget line item to be lower because more employees pay. Man, I get wordy.
They have a larger copay.
They have.
Deb, I want that in the minutes for next month.
How about we
Can
just,
we get an English
let's just
teacher,
say-
please? English teacher, please.
how about this? Mr. Cifarelli pointed out that the OBOE has about 100 more employees paying into the plan,
Correct.
so their overall expense is less, or,
But
because you have more copays.
But it's both, Kevin. It's they have more money coming in, and even though they have twice as many employees, we have the exact or almost the exact same costs in total. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I learned from John last week. I thought.
No, you're right, Jim. You're right.
Why don't we just say something like the cost is amortized over more people? Or more employees.
They have more people paying copays into the plan, and their usage was less than that of the town.
Sounds good.
That would
Sounds
work.
good.
That would work
Sounds
very
good.
well, Kevin. I tell you, it was a surprise to me that half as many people have just the same amount as claims. I mean, that was a big learning.
Well, they have different plans over there than we do, also.
Yeah. Okay.
But what you don't see is though they have some of the people on high deductible plans, but they pay them out of their budget X amount of dollars, and I don't know what it is for them to go over to those plans.
Okay. Mr. Cifarelli continues.
Okay, page 3 at the top, the first paragraph where it says workman's health compensation. Strike the word health.
Strike workmen's too, it's workers.
Workers, yeah, workers' compensation.
Okay.
Next line also workers' compensation. And
Okay.
then we go down to number 4, budget discussion.
Let me get there, Johnny. Okay, good.
Okay, that last paragraph there on the first bullet, where it starts with Mr. Cifarelli felt that Amity surplus. I don't think I said that.
Which
Well,
bullet?
when you on, John?
Oh, he's on bullet number 1 under 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the very last, right there, right where
Mr.
Jim.
Nuzzo,
Yeah, last sentence, Kev.
Yeah,
Mr. Cifarelli felt that the Amity, they might not need use to cover the budget increase this year. Yeah.
I don't
yeah, I
think
don't recall that.
Yeah, can we just strike that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things I think we have to be careful of, when I was reading this section, and since we're on this paragraph, I'll say it now.
And John, did I state we were going to have a surplus?
I can't remember what I said sometimes, so I'm not sure about you. Usually when I question myself like that, I usually go back to the tape, but I didn't have time to do it this time.
And I've never done that because I don't like to listen to myself or see myself. We do not have the audit yet, but indicated there will be a surplus. Obviously, if Deb wrote it.
Tell you the truth, I almost think I said that part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Budget for any
If Deb wrote it, I'm sure I said it, or one of us did.
Hey, did you say maybe the one that is labeled to me and I said the one labeled to you?
I don't know.
One of the things I would like to say is kind of a structure thing. When I read this first paragraph, my head was spinning. And the reason is, and that's where the paragraph that starts with Mr. Nuzzo, we usually in a paragraph, you put like things, right? And I was going, well, Mr. Nuzzo was talking about the Amity Finance Committee. Then the second sentence, the bond for purchase, that to me was a separate item. So I would have started a new bullet. Then the third sentence, Mr. Cifarelli and Ms. Gear will look at, that's a different topic totally. So it felt to me like we were just putting unrelated bullets in one paragraph, and it just didn't add up for me. So, in other paragraphs, it was, a continuous flow of the sentences on the same general thing of the one topic in that particular bullet. In a certain way, it's a nit, but boy, I think the whole structure of this, in that one paragraph, the first three sentences look to me like they're kind of connected to different things.
I would agree.
But with tonight's meeting and other things, we do jump pretty quickly sometimes on topic. So
no, I'm just saying if somebody's reading this in the future, Kev, that's all. I would just say the first sentence, Mr. Nuzzo, bullet. The bond for purchase, bullet. Mr. Cifarelli and Ms. Gear will look for bullet. And if you want to take out the last two sentences, God bless America. I'm just saying that there just seem to be a lot of disparate things there.
I'm in favor of taking out the last two sentences. John, how do you feel?
It sounds good to me.
I'm okay with it.
John, you got anything else on this?
Nope, that's all I had. Your turn.
Okay, I've got two. I'll do them in reverse order. Since we're down here on this, the bullet that starts with Mr. Leahy indicated. So it's bullet 3 on the current version under budget discussions. I think the grand list has a 0.7% net increase. So add in a 0.7% net increase. That's part of the stuff we learned the other day when John, you, me, and Brian Casey met, and I think Kevin's voice was in that. The final one that I have is, and I'd be happy to show you the PowerPoint slide I used. It has to do with the last bullet before section 4, so it's therefore in section 3. It's the last sentence. And I think we should be taking off anything after the word Mr. Leahy based on more historical norms, Mr. Leahy. And then I will just show you the slide that I used and say, those are the words we should use. That I said that a roadmap opportunity exists for OBOE, for the OBOE, consistent with historical orange norms and DRG schools to save money for all taxpayers. That's what I said. Like reflected there, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman and John and team.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 8th as amended?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, thank you. All right. Item number 9. We kind of did the revenue side, but to review revenue and expense reports for 2/28/2021. I had my 2 cents on the revenue side. So I don't know if anybody else has questions on that, or John, if you want to interject any information on the revenue or expense reports.
Unless anybody's got anything specific, I think that we go over them last week.
We did.
Yeah, on the tax collections, the situation where there are people that they're making installment payments or whatever they want to call them, how is that, that whole program working out?
I haven't talked to her on that, Kevin. I'll see if I could get some information on that for next week.
Yeah. In other words, how long has she spread it out? And is there...
If you look at that area, I think we only have $445,000 worth of taxes to collect. So
still outstanding, yeah.
I would say she's not doing bad considering what we've gone through for the year. Go down just a little, 454.
Right.
So that isn't bad.
I think that's a lot better than we probably thought it would be last year.
I think so. So. Because I don't think we collected 100% last year either. And I think I told you we might have to start looking at our collection rate at that 99.25 in the future.
Not this year.
No.
Didn't mean it that way.
Fortunately, like last year, hopefully we collect this 454 in the coming months. But it's the same thing we said when, people wanted us to use more of the fund balance. And, that's going to be a discussion for next week in our final meeting as to what we do with that. But we put 300 in this budget, but we also said, we don't know. It could be $1 million. We don't know what we're spending a fund balance because we don't know what we're actually going to get.
Right.
So on the property collection, the tax collections, that's great. It's the other areas that I talked about earlier that I'm, very concerned about. But, from John's projections of the expense savings and everything else, we're still going to be okay, which is a huge positive because it is a great unknown.
Right.
But I was actually, when I got this report, at seeing, we're at 99.3 of what we projected, that I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, Kevin, I did like you. I looked at the tax collection thing and first thought, oh, we're doing really good. But then when I started digging into it a little more and looking at some of the other areas where we were down, and it did raise concern. I would have never thought that we might be in a whole revenue side the way we may be.
Yeah, and Mr. Leahy with his letters and pressure on the group that manages our school system in Woodbridge, that 710,000 surplus above and beyond what we budgeted is a savior.
Absolutely.
And as we know, they still kept 500,000 out, so it should have been more than that. So, but that's that covers all the other items that, you know, interest rates dropped in a free for all. But we have some of those accounts, John, as we talked earlier, where there's nothing posted. So if Art or whoever's doing that can, you know, post anything there, and then if we can get a feeling for, I don't know if it's the first selectman or who's in contact with UNH and Yale as to, you know, what actually Yale overpaid their volunteer pilot. So it's UNH. As to,
Yeah, we had a discussion about that today, and let me just say it's an ongoing situation. Let me leave it at that.
with UNH.
With UNH.
Well, they're one of the schools in Connecticut, and I give them credit, although I have, you know, clients that work for them. You know, when this hit, they cut everybody's salary and benefits, and some of these other schools did not. They actually raised their tuition, and so I don't know what their situation is. So that could be.
I know that Quinnipiac did the same thing, Kevin.
They did? Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yale has actually been a good corporate citizen. Let me leave it at that.
Oh, yeah. And from what I understand, their vaccination program at the West Campus in Orange has been fantastic.
And,
Yep.
and
It is.
they have been doing a lot of Orange residents up there.
Yeah.
And they've got a ton of volunteers because I tried to volunteer and they didn't need me. So either that or they didn't like me. I'm not sure what.
Kev, I am scheduled for my first shot on Friday at Yale West.
Yeah.
So it took about a week to get an appointment, but we got one.
Good.
Yeah.
They're very efficient there.
And John, how do we determine the pilot money that they're going to pay us? How does that work? Is it a negotiation? How does it?
Yale's was made as part of the negotiation when they came in and bought all the beer property. They did a negotiation both with Orange and West Haven because the committee had been set up to look into who was going to take over that property and how they were going to market it. And Bruce Alexander at the time, who was the Yale rep on the property, the light bulb went off in his head that Yale should buy it. And they bought it at 25% on the dollar, pretty much over there. And they gave them all that lab space and office space and everything else. And as part of the deal, West Haven and Orange said, you know, we're going to lose taxes on this. How are you going to help us? And a formula was created. It's based on the square footage. I think it's based on the number of people that are working over there. And as you know, only part of that office building is in Orange. Not even that whole office building.
No, it's the tail end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The parking lot is more in Orange than the office building. But they come in every September. Usually we get a letter, we get a check with them, and they give us their count and how they figure it and all. The other person's a little different.
Okay, thank you for that.
You had sent out, John, and I don't think we actually looked at this, so error on me for not alerting the team to that. But we do have this memo from Donnie Foyer.
Correct.
And he's talking about he has a budget of $1 million, the Town Aid Road, he's looking for 600 there. And then he's asking for 600, which will eventually come into a discussion with us, I guess. Am I to understand that all these roads, John, do you know the difference between reclaim or what's the definition of reclaim?
Reclaim is when they go in and they take out all the asphalt and get down to the bare ground, the process, the stone underneath. That's when a road is real bad. They did that on Grannis Road, I believe, when Grannis Road was done. If you remember, they've done that. I think they did it on your road, PJ, didn't they, last year, Narrow?
They did.
And I think they did it
Tavern.
in Old Tavern. So all the asphalt is taken up, ground up. It's resurfaced with the process, smooth it out. Potholes and dips are taken care of. Then the asphalt goes over it. The overlay is when you just put a layer of asphalt on top of the layer of asphalt.
Okay, so reclaim is more labor intensive and therefore more cost.
Two different companies also.
So if I'm to understand this chart right, and this is different from whether we want to invest in this, I guess, but then I am seeing 4, 10, 15, 16, maybe 17, some Prudent Lane in there, almost 20 streets. Am I understanding this chart right?
Yes. And what he's saying is he probably with the money you're giving them won't get to the Prudent Lane ones, the one that group with Prudent Lane. He thinks it'll only get them to Dogwood and Spring Street.
It would, because I just added it up and he's got 1.68 million if you total this page versus the 1.3 million on the other shot.
Oh, does it? Okay. Okay. So
I am not, this was in John's capital budget presentation, for, taking money out of capital. I can be overridden because there's 6 of us, but I don't want to do anything on this evening.
Kevin, the only thing I'm sitting here stunned by, remember how much we paid to just do the parking lot at Amity? Okay. I think it was what, 625, 650, right? And I may be way off. Maybe we're getting a deal over there. I don't know. But I'm looking at 20 streets in Orange and we're doing it for double that. I'm going, what? That's the only thing I'm noticing. I'm not saying, I wasn't going down the road of how much, or whether we should do it even. I'm just stunned by it.
That's an excellent point.
And you have 20 roads there. There's probably 60 more than needed, just as bad.
Well,
drive around New Haven and some of these other towns. We're in pretty good shape. And I know Wagon Trail in that area, the first ones he's got on the list, those are that's pretty rough territory. When we get down to Rolling Ridge, Woodland, and Manley Heights, nah, I'm not so sure. But I get it. We want to keep up with all these things as much as we can.
Right.
But right now, it looks like with his budget in the Town Aid Road, he's got 700,000 before we do anything, so we can at least start the first section, if not the part of the second section.
Right.
And then we could determine the rest in the coming weeks, and also see what happens, what we're allowed to spend if we get it, the 1.3 from the federal government.
Right.
I think, and I'm not sure, I'd have to question him on it, or we'd have to have him appear when you wanted to deal with this. I think he's looking for an answer in April because he needs to contract for these roads. I think, I don't know if it says it in April, but I think he talks about he's got a contract. Yeah. Our contractors are scheduled for May and June before the 168 cities and towns. So
it started, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to know that it was there. We hadn't touched it. We gave it a touch.
Yeah. I think when you want to talk about it, maybe we have him, hopefully we'll be back in person after April. We have him come in and he could explain it to you, or him and Britton could explain it to you.
Well, I know it's needed. We've done some bonding. We've done a lot. And, and I know believe me, I know some people in these neighborhoods are complaining about their roads. I was fortunate my neighborhood was done last year, as was PJ's, because if I rounded a corner on Crocker Court, I almost went into a sinkhole. But
That,
again,
that would,
I didn't complain.
that would be the
because-
first time a vehicle turned over on your road.
Yeah, so we don't bring that up.
Watch it.
So we, you know, but again, the cheapness of me was like, okay, I just go around the hole. You know, it's not a high traffic road, and some of these are not. You know, not, and I'll get phone calls later, but Woodland Lane, it's a dead end. You know, Baird End Road's a dead end.
Yeah, I was noticing some of those too, that there are kind of roads that are off the beaten path,
Yeah.
you know?
We want to help all the residents and everybody else, but this might not be the year to do it.
Okay. All right.
And Spring Street has like 4 houses, of which, you know, I don't think he's watching, but Walter Smith, who's a phenomenal human being. I'm not sure we want to do that road yet.
Okay.
So anyway.
All righty then.
EJ is awake. All right. So item number 10 then, if we're past 9 in this memo, to review detailed costs of tropical storm, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
I don't think anything changed on that since last week.
All right.
So John, not to hold you to anything, but we got 250 coming out of fund balance, of which I said earlier we're going to add 100 back because, you know, I would imagine all the costs that have been incurred are now part of this sheet. So we didn't use the 250, but your gut as to what's reimbursed here. We got 154 in. Do you think we'll get 50 back, 60 back, or it's still a wag?
I think you gotta, Jim, do you have it so I can look at it? Can't put
I'm
it-
looking to see which one it is. I'm having a little trouble finding it.
Because this is just going to be money that goes back into our fund balance.
Right. And for what I understand, past storms, it takes maybe a couple of years to get it too, but I don't know. I haven't been here for one of these. I just know they're not giving us any money on the care thing either.
This must be it, John.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, let me flip it around and see view. And let's give it a boost.
Okay.
All right, John.
If we start with the A&M woodworking there, I can't see
Yep.
it. So now, could you go a
I'll
little
get
to
you.
the right?
Yeah, I'm going there, man.
Yeah.
We can see the amount of money and some.
Now, some of those were put in for December and I think January. It may be from the same storm. I'm not sure we're going to get reimbursed for that, for some of those. I mean, it just may be too late. I don't know what.
That's all the wood?
Yeah, that's all the wood down the transfer station. So I don't know there. We certainly get reimbursed probably for the first 4. I don't know about the last 2. Paulo and Denny, we should get reimbursed for. There's another A&M wood. I can't see the date on that, so I'm not
It's
sure.
1020, John. It's the last 4 digits.
So we may get that one. Viola Water North Storm. That's the people that takes care of our sewer system. So I'm not sure what they did to get charged in there. Then the W.I. Clark, they went out and bought a piece of equipment to help them with the trees. I'm not sure we're going to get reimbursed for that. Soundview, they brought stumps from trees that were taken down along the road. We probably should get reimbursed for that. Knights, they bought a chainsaw. We'll probably get that. Hasselmeyer Construction, I don't know what they rented there, so I'm not sure we're going to get that. Wright Excavation, I'm not sure what he did. Soundview, it was more tree stumps that we can't take at the dump. Donnie, I think he took pictures. One of the things they asked for were pictures with GPS coordinates on where the trees and roads were down. And I think that's what he did there. So we'll probably get reimbursed for that. East Coast sign, I think, I'm not sure what they bought, barricades or something. They needed barricades. I'm not sure we can prove that we bought them just for the storm. Colony Hardware, I don't know. Ciola, I don't know what we rented. Then we talked about the 2 tires for the machine. I'm
Right.
not sure we're going to get that. And Ciola, again, I'm not sure we're going to get that. Then we also have some labor that's in another account that I did an Excel sheet for. We're probably going to get 75% of that. And I think that was like $30,000 or $40,000. So
That's our town employees.
That's our town employees. And they changed the rules there. You weren't able to, in the past, we were told you weren't able to get their first 40 hours. You're only able to get their overtime hours. So now they said we could get their 40 plus the overtime.
Wow.
So that's what's going to give us some money. We'll probably get more money there than we're going to get here.
Well, John, just listening to your, swags, and no disrespect, but you did a very fine job writing down the list. I'm only hearing about 20 or 30 grand that we probably will not get.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
No, I'm just looking at the numbers, and you said the first 2 at the top of the list might be, might not, it's been a little while. And then I see 1, so that's 10. And I just say, it sounds like 10 more in the middle of it.
John, not to hold you to it, but do you have an idea of when we could expect this money?
The last time this happened, it took almost 2 years.
All right. So we're not holding our breath then.
And now,
No.
we still haven't gotten any money, PJ, from the CARE Act on the town side. We put in application. They come back, they change the rules. We have to drop stuff. They come back, they say, this isn't the correct form for labor. We do the new form they give us. 2 months go by, they come back and say, no, this isn't the right form. They give us another form. We've done labor about 4 different times. And
so we're going to have to pay for this and then hope to get reimbursed.
That's what it is. It'll be like a gift when it comes in.
Okay.
So right now we're paying the $154,000.
Right.
And then whatever comes in, comes in.
Right.
All right.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
The good news is we might have an upside on labor.
Next.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, PJ's waiting for item 11.
He needs you to announce it, I think.
That's PJ's item.
I've been waiting since 9 o'clock for a number.
We've been waiting since 6:35. Oh, no, 7:35. We started later tonight.
Well, I thought we started at 6. So I was ready to roll at 6:03.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were late at 7, so we won't pick on you for that.
Right. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Second by Pat. All those in favor, and we'll see you all next Wednesday. And thank you very much.
Bye.